Shit. Yo, we got people watching. Shit, this is so different of Facebook Live. For the 4 people that are watching, how's the audio? And how's the video? Is it delayed or anything? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. Is the chat even working? Audio is good. Progressive failure. What's up, man? Everyone send me your music either through the Discord submission thread or send it to me over Facebook message. Either way. Oh man, I'm so excited that this actually works. Because I was getting so fucking bored of Facebook living. If I'm doing that every day, I want to at least switch it up. It's getting so boring just doing Facebook streams. I was trying to get Twitch working as well today, but it had such bad lag with the frame rate. I don't know what kind of settings. Yeah. Nah, Max, thanks so much for helping, man. I feel like your advice got us so much closer to it being an actual normal stream, but I think there's some settings still I could play with. Other than that, it's just my fucking internet. Yeah, it was such a big delay on my Twitch stream. If you have any other advice, would love to know, and I'll have another go at it later today. But I'm just fucking excited as fuck that this YouTube one's working now, because this wasn't working before. I couldn't log in probably. All right. This time around, I'm just gonna go through all the tracks and not waste as much time. I think last time I was wasting time. really fucking long song. I'd love to listen to the whole thing, 8 minutes long, but I think this time around when it's a really long song, I'll just like go through the gist of it. I thought that I really like the oh fuck, I can't even say it properly, like the orchestral stuff, because like that's what I'm all about. I love my cinematic stuff. It's what all my stuff is based on, like movie soundtracks and video game soundtracks. So I love that shit. The main thing I thought that this was lacking was saturation. Like it's very evident because there's a lot of harmonics that aren't coming through. Like you've got the sounds there and everything, but there's a lot of the warmth and depth that aren't there in the sounds that could be really filling out your mix down. Something that I've been experimenting with lately is what I used to do was I used to use Soundtoys Decapitated, which is a plugin from Soundtoys. And it's really nice, like analog kind of console sound. And you can choose like different kinds of like console emulations at the bottom. And it's really easy to use, but it's a single band saturator, so like you'll basically, all you do is you chuck it on, first plug in on any of your synths or drums, whatever. I mainly use it on synths, and you just like turn up the effect pretty much to like just a small amount, and you're like, it's added so much harmonics. But then what I've been experimenting with lately is using iZotope Trash 2, but not going through the presets. Because let's be real here. We've all, if any of us here has used iZotope Trash 2, you know what I'm talking about. Like there's so many times you try to go through those presets and they'll just be way overpowering, just be way too hectic. But the thing is, if you just like spend a little bit of time and just go to the default settings, and even if you just want to use it on single band, but what I've been doing lately is multi-band. So you hit the multi-band button on the default setting and just click on the bands and just go and change the saturation type to tape saturation and to all the bands. And I mean, even like the top end band, the highest band, you could chuck it on like Blue Driver, which is one of like the actual distort settings. And it has a nice high end, but I've been using tape saturation through that, and it's really, really crisp and clean, and it's really fat. And you don't really need to play with the settings too much. I mean, that's just like off the default settings on multiband. Definitely try that out. I've been putting that the first thing in my chain, like all my tracks, and it's either Decapitator or iZotope Trash 2. I have that as like the first plugin when I'm making anything, any sound. It's like the first thing I add, because you want to beef something up before you take anything away. Like what I used to do, and what I'm sure a lot of people used to do, is that they would add EQ first and take out what they didn't need, and then they'd add shit. But when it comes to saturation, it should be the first thing you do, because you want to add all the harmonics and frequencies that you can think of, right? So like it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy here, but it's like, you need to expand the balloon before you paint the picture, if that makes, no, that's a terrible analogy, actually. I'm trying to think about, like, in terms of painting a picture, like, you need to, like, I don't know, have the canvas up. I don't know. Can't think of the right analogy right now, but basically it's best to saturate first. And then once you've got all the harmonics and frequencies in, then you can start deducting with like subtractive EQ and whatnot, and compression and stuff. Anyways, on to the next one. On to the next one. Oh, wait. There was other people in line, I think. I don't know. I won't change the lineup, actually. We will continue this story unfolds.
Be gone, son!
You want some more? Okay.
Teach him a lesson. Be gone, son!
Okay, so the main things I noticed in this track, it's got a great idea and everything, but it is sounding very cymaticsy, virtual right presetted kind of, it's what's that fucking sound? It's that Zomboy song that like everyone jokes about. Terror. It sounds like the Terror Squad wavetable that everyone uses. I couldn't really hear any hi-hats or crashes and stuff like that, but I think even judging by your waveform as well, it seems as though it's just a gain staging. Now, I don't know if you guys know much about gain staging, but it's like it's probably like the most important thing. Oh, it's your own presets. You just need to change it up some more, bro, so it just doesn't sound like the rest of SoundCloud. Because after Cymatics came to the game, like it's just everybody sounds like that kind of sound. Try experimenting with shit like putting, I don't know, like a ring mod, like bouncing your shit down into audio and then putting into a ring mod on it. Or like, yeah, just like bounce your shit down. And if you're in Ableton especially, try resampling shit. I mean, I don't have Ableton, but I've seen the shit like Mr. Bill does on his YouTube channel. Like with the granulizer and resampling shit. He basically granulizes his entire master and like warps it, and then like he finds like segments that are like super granulized, and then he moves that into his actual drop from that granulized master. Like go look at Mr. Bill's channel if you feel like you're lacking inspiration on how your sound design could be. His shit is insane. He's so underrated as well. I think it's really just you really just need to work on your mix down, because once you've kind of mixed and mastered your mix down, then everything else falls into place, because you have a better understanding then of how music production really works, like how it all works in terms of not only just your mix and master, obviously, but like your sound design as well. It'll all get better as soon as you kind of understand gain staging, especially. What you need to figure out firstly is how much volume you're actually putting into the master before you put anything on it. Because like the thing is, I noticed is when I used to mix really low and like I didn't feed too much volume into the master, I would end up with a mix down like this, like the kick and snare transients are coming through, but then everything else is like super quiet and it's not full. Like you want, especially for dubstep, you want like a well-clipped, nicely fat fucking sausage for the waveform, especially, and like you can feel it. Like all the sub and the drums come through way harder when you clip it as well. If you haven't already, some great clipping plugins they should start experimenting with on your master, guys, is the Casrog clipper is a great one. what else is there? There's like the IK Multimedia Classic Clipper or something. I don't know. All their entire plugins are all based on like a dinosaur or some shit, like, or something like that. And then there is another one that I've been using lately, which is the AOM Invisible Limiter. But like that's, I mean, I think Alex Defire swears by that one as well. He put me onto that Invisible Limiter. Like, because the best ones are Fab Filter, Ozone, and Invisible Limiter, like hands down. They have like the most powerful limiting capabilities. But with Invisible Limiter, it has a clipping setting, so it can act as a soft clipper as well. While the other two, they're not that great at that. I don't think Fab Filter can even do clipping, like soft clipping. That's more of like a suppressing limiter. You know, it works just as a limiter, like it pushes your shit back down. Yeah, that's the thing. They're all extremely powerful, but you got to use it in moderation. You got to understand how clipping works. You got to, because the thing is like I always say this is that clipping, you know, soft clipping compared to hard clipping, with hard clipping being like a normal limiter that's like suppressing your music down, compressing it down in a sense, because it's a limiter is a compressor at highest ratio. If you have a soft clipper instead of a limiter, it's not going to just push it down. Anything that goes above the threshold gets chopped off. So like that's why you have a soft clipper in your master, right? Because then you can push your master even harder. Like let's say you've got like, I don't know, like a Sonox inflator right before. That's like adding all this harmonics and extra stuff and like beefiness and depth to your track. But then what happens is that on the master, and what happens is that your master somewhat becomes imbalanced because you've added all this shit. Like not necessarily that plugin, could be another kind of like analog saturation plugin that you add in your master, and it might like, I don't know, imbalance your master a bit, because like then there's like added dynamics, and now it's like moving up and down on the fader. When compared to before that, it might be a hell compressed signal where it's like, you know, only moving slightly. Because when it's only moving slightly, it means you can actually push it harder because there's less dynamics, right? Because then otherwise, like when it's going through the limiter, it's going to be in the red and whatnot. But if you soft clip that shit, then it's just going to be like a straight up, just like the signal's going to be still dynamic. You're not compressing it. You're just chopping off whatever's like coming through. So you can really push your master way harder, because then think about it. You've got that same amount of loudness, but like it's just like being clipped off, like all the excess like volume isn't being there anymore. Like the fluctuating volume isn't there anymore. It's still the same thing, but you got to do it like you like you said as well. It's insane, and it will destroy your mix if you don't use it in the smallest amounts. But yeah, I hope that tip helps. Shit. shit, I almost like fucking headbutted my mic here. But I think that try referencing EEPROM or like Zeke Beats, stuff like that, because I feel like that's the kind of thing you're going for. But you're lacking a lot of power in your mix down. Like it's really coming down to like you've got just like the last song you sent, you've got the right idea and the right vibe, but it's just like your mix and master just is lacking a little bit. That's like filling out the entire track, obviously. I think today I'm going to talk a heap about mixing and mastering more than usual, just because for the last week, I've just been doing some insane research and trial and error and stuff. And I really feel like I have such bigger understanding about mixing and mastering that I'd love to give back to you guys about from what I learned. Especially a lot of like the analog side of things. And I mean, like, basically what like mixing and mastering engineers do. Like I've just spoken to so many over the last couple of days, and I kind of feel like I have my head wrapped around this stuff. But anyways, back to this. I think have a look at trying to put saturation on every single like synth in this track, and make sure that you've got transient designers on all of your drums and just boost the attack so that like they're really hitting hard. But then put a limiter after that, so then it's not overly so the volume's not like in the red. Basically, it'll put it back down. K clip 3, hey? I actually don't have K clip 3. I only have K clip 2, but I noticed that K clip 3 is like a multi-band soft clipper or something, eh? Yeah, I need to get that, eh? That sounds like a really useful feature for mastering, because you need to be able to audition to see what each plugin is doing. Something I found so important in mastering as well is like your gain staging. And I'm only realizing now how important it is with the input and output functions of each plugin. Like if it doesn't have an output, overall output button or knob or whatever, then you're kind of limited, because every time you put on a new plugin, you want to make sure that on your master chain, you want to make sure that you're not adding volume. You're just adding the sound of the plugin, if that makes sense. Because, you know, mastering is everything's real subtlety. You know, everything you're doing is very subtle, right? And you want to make sure that when you're putting these plugins on, you're not just adding volume, because sometimes volume itself can be very misleading. Sometimes you think that this plugin is making a track sound better, but it's just making it louder. And the thing is, loudness is, you know, what am I trying to say here? Loudness, like it just sounds better. Everything sounds better loud, right? So sometimes it can confuse you, and you're like, shit, this plugin's doing so much better, making this master so much fucking better. But then it's just adding volume. Like you're not necessarily just adding the color of the plugin. Like that's what you're trying to do on your master bus. You're not trying to add too much volume. You want the limiter to add the volume. You know, you want to feed what you've got, the same amount of volume that you've got in your mix, straight into your compressor and whatnot, and your tape saturation, tape compressor, whatever, tape compression. And then you want the limiter or limiters to do the main part of the job. You don't want to be continuously adding volume as you add plugins, because the thing is then, like, if you wanted to go back a few steps, you kind of fucked. Think about it. If you add like 10 plugins and each one is adding like decibels and decibels of volume, then if you wanted to backstep a few bit, then you're kind of fucked, because you've added so much volume. You don't know which plugin is really doing what, you know? So it's so important. Like anytime you add a plugin onto your master chain, make sure that you deduct the output and stuff. Deduct the output. So then, like, even if it's like the plugin before that, you can deduct the output. So then the next plugin, you can like turn it on and off, the plugin itself. So you can actually audition to see what it's actually doing. And it's not if it's not an actual like volume difference, then you know that you can just hear what it's actually doing, right? Uh, I reckon you need to try and have a go at referencing other tracks that are already like on a really professional level and just have a look at how they structure their tracks. Because I think there is a lot of points here in the structure where there could be more things moving in and out to like more so create that transition that you're going into another segment, basically. Like here, for example, you've got like, see how you've got that kick drum going for way too long. And I think it's not only you've started the doubles and triples, whatever, way too early on. Like you also do that in the last, like very end of the bar, you'll do that. And maybe you add a filter that just filters that up out of the way. Other than that, I thought, I feel like that the drop, you could definitely go with something way heavier and then just use the melody you've got right now as like the breakdown thing. I'm not too familiar with what you're trying to go for though, but you could definitely get away with like trying to get a bit more experimental with like bass lines here in the drop. Because this could be a great, like this would sound way better as just like the breakdown melody, but not on the drop in my opinion. That's just me though. Like I love my heavy aggressive shit. Yeah. Yeah, and also try the things that I was just talking about in the previous videos as well. I mean, not videos, previous submissions, like, you know, transient design and saturation. I'm feeling like that's like the main things everyone isn't too acquainted with, you know.
salvation exists, you cannot stop the oblivion to come. Husk of blazing star, heed my call! Cast your shadow over all. Bahamut! Join the goddess in death! Lose yourself in battle. Bahamut! Kiss night.
Dope. Bloody rhythm. I will say that I think it's lacking just like parallel compression, really, like really, really heavy parallel compression. If you haven't checked that out, basically all you got to do is get your drums really tight on individually, like, you know, transient designers will compress transient designer, limit. Then on like your drum bus, you chuck on a compressor again. And then you do a transient designer again. The thing is, anytime you're compressing any drums, always put a transient designer afterwards, because the compressor somewhat kills the transient itself. And then after that, you can put like a clipper. Not a lot of people do it because they sometimes they mix their drums too high individually, and then it sounds fucked when they try and put a clipper on like the bus itself. But have a go with putting a soft clipper on your bus and just see how far you can actually push your sound. You'd be really surprised. Because the thing is about rhythm or Bridum, the thing is it's really dependent on how good your drums are. Like, you really need to have your drums, you need to have them have their transients really pushing hard, so then the rest of your track can be pushed up as well. What else can I say? Yeah, and like the kick, because you're doing rhythm and whatever, you've got the kick and snare on the two like together, but you need to have that separation so that it seems more like it's just the same thing. Like, it's just one like fat snare. You don't want it to be too obvious that it's the kick snare overlapping in that sense. Like, you make duplication of that kick drum channel, and then that duplicate, you just EQ a bit stronger with the with like take out more of the high end, and if you're using like I don't know, like battery, like I use battery for a lot of my drums, so I can actually just go in and change the attack and decay there. But if not, then you can just do like a fade on the audio sample. If you're whatever DAW you're doing, all DAWs do it. You can just create a fade on like the end of the kick drum, so then the tail of the snare is more so dominating, and you don't hear too much of like the decay of the actual kick drum. But I use batteries, so that actually lets me like play with the attack and decay and sustain of the actual individual drums. So I can do that in there as well. But fades work fine as well, because it's, you know, decay, sustain, all that. It's still, at the end of the day, it's volume. But if you're DAW like mine, like I use Logic X, so it's very limited with the fades. So that's why I use battery, because like I can be very specific about the fades with using decay and sustain. rather with Ableton, if you're using Ableton, you can actually like create like hell legit fades, like audio fades. Okay, next ones. Good idea. It's got a lot of potential, but I think when you're making a track where it's like simple like this, you need to really get the mix really tight. In that sense, you need to get those like mid, low endy kind of stabs you got. You need to make them really fucking punch through, because that will make the track. You know, if you've got something that's you've got the rising sound, which is cool, but you need to complement that with like you need to really make that those bass stabs really heavy, I reckon. You can do that through tape saturation. Oh my God. Tape saturation is so powerful, guys. If you haven't already, like, I say this every time, Sound Toys Decapitator. It's the best single band saturator there is, in my opinion. If you want to do multi-band, get Isotope Trash 2. Both great saturators. Use them on everything. So have a look at that. Try using saturation to, like, fill out your mix and just see how much depth it can give your track. And then send that again, because you'll be surprised how much more headroom it will give you when you start saturating. People tend to just go straight to the compressor without realizing that they need to add frequencies first. You need to see how far you can push your sound first before you start, in a sense, deducting things, whether that's EQ or even compression, which is, in a way is deducting the dynamics, that's what it does. Yeah, the Fab Filter Saturn's good and all, but I've never really, I don't know, there's something about it. I just can't seem to get the same kind of analog goodness that I can out of, in comparison to Sound Toys or Isotope Trash. The Fab Filter Saturn's tape saturation just isn't on point, in my opinion, but I think it has a lot more, accessibility. Like, there's a lot more crazy shit you can do, but I've not yet got my head around all that. Yeah, I'm like, look, all Fab Filter stuff has great presets, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to, like, the real surgical stuff, you need to check out Sound Toys and Isotope Trash 2. Okay, next one. can see and also you can hear is that when the drop hits, you've got like the original actual kick or whatever percussive sound from the original that you sampled in, and you can see. I'm sure you've noticed when you did that how much louder and how thicker and how much bigger of a transient that is in comparison to the version that you're trying to mix into that, right? And you really need when you're doing stuff like that, you really need to get your drums just as loud as the original. You really need to have a go at, transient designers compressing and try saturating. Fuck, I'm gonna be saying the same things to you guys every stream, because these things are so important and they get looked over so much. People tend to just go straight for the OTT and limit their shit, and then that's all they do. There's so much more you can do. I've actually stopped even using OTT on most of my stuff. I've been using FabFilter Pro MB because it's the same thing, but like 100 times more accessibility. Like there's so many more things you can do, especially with the downwards and upwards compressing on the FabFilter MB. Like it's definitely way more powerful. It's like something that you should have on all your buses and your master. Yeah. MB is a beast of a plugin. If you can learn how to use the FabFilter Pro MB, then you basically have everything. You have every tool at your disposal. Can I do a small course on transient design? Do you mean transient design, like as in like processing sounds to get to that? Or do you mean transient design, like designing sounds from scratch? Or are you saying both? I can definitely put something together for you guys if that's what you want. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Processing, yes, I can definitely. Shit, let me see if I can do it right now. But I'd love to do it right now, but I think heaps of people get pissed off because they're like, waiting for my fucking track to be feedbacked. So many people had a sad last time when I didn't get to their track. But yeah, like it's even, I'm guessing like you've only just started out with your music production and whatnot, but like have a look at finding good percussion first. Like the first thing you should do is especially when you're doing a remix of another professionally well done track, is to find sounds that are already well processed. Like you don't need to add too much to them, especially when you're starting out, because you don't actually understand and can understand the fundamentals of like what creates like a good percussive sound. Like you don't know the ins and outs of like how to go about making that or even layering that together. So the best thing to do is find sounds that are already well processed, so you don't have to do that. Then you can just focus on getting better with your structure and everything. I can definitely do a video on transit design for you guys. if I have time at the end of this stream, then I'll do it as well. But right now, I need to get through all these tracks. All right. Who's next? that? Who's Dollar Bear? That's sick. You could definitely go with some more sidechain for sure. Because the thing with this kind of dubstep, like it's a big wall of sound, and when you have that many layers, that you can actually really get away with really heavy ducking with your sidechain. What I've been using lately for sidechain is what do you call it? The volume shaper 4. I think there's a 5 out now. I can't be sure, to be honest. But it's essentially just like the LFO tool, but you have way more control in terms of the actual shape of the ducking. That you can really get creative with the ducking. While LFO tool, it's more like, I feel like the shapes themselves they're too much like the serum ones, where like I don't know, I don't feel like they're as flexible. Like they're more so used for effects and stuff, in my opinion. I used to use the LFO tool, but the volume shaper is just so much better. So much better. Have a go at putting heavier sidechain on. If you're not using the volume shaper 4, you need to get on that, because it will change your game completely. Sounds like you could do with either clean up like the 3K, 5K frequencies of all your synths. If not, then, and it's like, too far gone, you could try and get a de-esser. The FabFilter Pro DS is actually my favorite DS. I've been using that quite a bit lately. You can chuck that on your master on multiband mode. So it's not like for a vocal. So it's multiband mode. And you can just like move the faders to like, I don't know, 3K to upwards to like, I don't know, 6 or 12K, whatever you want. And then you can just like do really subtle de-essing, and it's just going to get rid of all that harshness in your mix. So you can get away with that, and it does a pretty fucking good job, and it won't really fuck up your mix. And the thing is, if it takes away too much high end, the de-essing, you can just add an EQ afterwards, right? Don't ever think you're limited just because you've done one thing. Like if you do everything really subtle in your master, you can keep adding and stacking things on. And the thing is, each plugin has, especially if you're using analog emulations, each plugin has a sound. I mean, you can literally stack plugins on your master, and they could just be not doing anything. They could just be adding their actual color without you actually playing with any of the settings. Like you can just leave them on default doing nothing. Like that's what a lot of mixing engineers do. They put like the heaps of the UAD stuff. Like they'll just put on the PugTech, if that's how you say it, PugTech or PugTech, I don't know. I think it's PugTech. They just chuck that on there and they don't even change in their settings because it adds that old school like console emulation sound, But yeah, a really sick track. Just have a go with some more extreme ducking with your sidechaining. And if you haven't already, have a go at parallel compression as well. So basically you just send your drums, not off the drum bus, but like singularly. So then you have more control. You can send some signal from like your kick drum and your snare drum directly to this bus, which has like some really extreme compression and extreme saturation. And then you just dial in a little bit. So you're mixing your dry signal with your wet signal. So you're not over processing your sound, but at the same time, you're adding that beef to it. So that will really help your drums push through. Because that's only thing I could pick apart on this was that the drums need more separation. But other than that, really dope track. Next, we've got more Kismet. This kid is like 13 years old, I think. but I think there's a lot of 5K and 3K kilohertz of really harsh frequency coming through because you're clipping things really hard. But the thing is, when you're clipping really hard, you need to take into the consideration that like everything is being pushed forward. So if you've got really bad like harsh frequencies happening, they're going to be more obvious in your master, like when you're exporting. So have a go at either you can EQ that out, or if you can't be fucked, you can just do a de-esser on the master. That's what I've been having a go with lately is de-essing on the master. It's really really useful. Yeah, dope track. Out where you're going with the track exactly, because like all the little bits and pieces where you've got the vocals fading in and out, I think you should use that when there is no drums being played, or like you just take out the drums for like that end of the bar, so then it kind of fades into the next section, because right now it's kind of confusing. You've got drums playing continuously but there's no real breaks, if that makes sense. Like it should be like that when you've got in the pre-drop there. That's cool. Like that if you get rid of those drums there, it makes more sense. Like even there as well, if you go to the drums. And then those parts where you've got just the kick playing, you need to have something on that. If you've got like the rest of the track is already really spaced out, you can't contrast that with more bits and pieces where it's just nothing being played except the kick. Like you need to figure out whether you want to either have a really filled out drop and then have small segments that are completely empty space with just the kick like you had there, or do the opposite and have like a really overall empty spaced out track. Like you need to figure out which one you're going to do. You can't do both, because otherwise there's just not enough going through. And it's a little confusing at times as well. What else we got? I think this will be the last one. Because I mean, compared to like the Facebook live streams that we've been doing every day, there isn't as much. Not enough people are seeing that this is live in comparison to when that's live. I think I'll be doing these on Twitch every day, I think, instead.
Yo, this is Krello, and right now you're locked into Severe. Keep that shit locked.
Contact with another planet.
Metal Gear Solid like bleeps where it's like, where is it? Oh man, that's so funny. Props to you for putting that in there. I mean, people who've played Metal Gear Solid will know that. The sound when you get like detected or whatever, when you're trying to hide and shit. I thought that was pretty fat. Feedback for that one. I thought it was great. Yeah, good mix down. Everything's OG. Severe Audio, nice one, man. Do I have you on Facebook? Severe Audio. Who was that sent that? Dun 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 dun. I don't know. I'll check later. Nah, I'm all good. I've got enough rhythm. Matthew Keller. I'll speak to you on Facebook then. Fuck. Did I get to the Mickey one? Is that in the Discord server, bro? Or did you send it to me over Facebook? Oh, okay. I'll check. Dun, 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 dun. I need to get through all these. I need to start using this like Discord fucking thread. Boy, I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going with these streams because I'm doing these every day, but it's like I need to figure out whether I'm doing this on YouTube or Twitch or fucking Facebook. but I just don't. I'm not too sure on the whole, melodic, happy vibe, and then into like more aggressive drop. I don't think it gels too well. Because what you want to do with bass house is you want to be able to bring that melody back into the drop, really. Like maybe if you had a go at bringing that like that up that you've got there, maybe try bringing that into one of the break segments of the drop, like here or something. And if it doesn't gel well with it, then you know for sure that it shouldn't, that you need to get rid of this breakdown melody. That's always the best way. You can even do the same thing. The same concept applies when you're using drums in your breakdown. If you overlay that on your drop and it works, and you know that it's a cohesive fucking track. If it doesn't work, then you know that you need to change things up. What else can we talk about besides the structural? I think this applies to everyone that was on here today that submitted. It's basically like your drums. You need to try transient designers, like compressed transient designers. It's so fucking important to have those things on like all your drums. Parallel compression, but mostly I think these drums you could just pick better drums, like it's the kick and the snare mainly. The clap, I mean, you could definitely layer those bad boys up for sure. And like I think this also applies in the sense of trying like single band or multi-band saturation as like your first plugin, and have a go at seeing how far you can maximize that before you go any further. Yeah, I think you might be overcomplicating. You could just get away with finding a more decent clap or snare like that you don't need to layer in the first place. Don't overcomplicate things. Try and keep it simple. Try with your drums. Try and keep it simple, and try and like get the rest of your track in order, like in terms of mix down. Because there's so much you can get away with post processing. Like fucked it. All right. Fuck. I think I'm gonna end this because it's been like an hour. But what I will do is I think it's gonna be on Twitch from now on. Because then I can do. Then I can be doing a bunch of other shit as well, and I can get the Discord server in here as well. So yeah, I think as of tomorrow, it will be on here again. If not, then it will be on Twitch. Yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed that and got some value out of this. Feel free to hit me up on Facebook or however you message me if you want some more detailed feedback. If you guys can give me a follow on here, it'd be much appreciated on this channel. The 8 of you that are here right now, if you can just give me a follow on the YouTube. Yeah, bro, you can send it to me over Facebook and I'll have a listen, but I think I'm done. I am done for this stream though. All right. Fuck. All right, I need to get back to my own music. All right, see you guys.